in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A little broadcast history, for me at least. I just started my very own Substack. I still don't really know what Substack is. It's going to be online in about 3 minutes. Greg Kelly's Substack. It's basically you can write big rants, articles, stories. You know, if it's too big for Twitter, you can put it on that thing. And some people charge. Mine will be free. I'm going to let everybody read my wisdom free. And that's great. Oh, how about this one? A Secret Service agent shoots himself while escorting Jill Biden at the airport in Philadelphia. A Secret Service agent, looks like it's an accident, shot himself in the foot. What, did he shoot himself in the foot? Non-life critical injuries. Secret Service agent who's supposed to be, you know what, I'm so sorry, but the federal government, it's like everything they touch, they stink at. Everything they touch. This Secret Service, how many mistakes are we going to tolerate? How many near misses, okay? You got to abolish the Secret Service. They can't do it. They stink. They're not good. You got to give it to the military. You got to get rid of all those guys and give protection of the president, vice president, all that stuff, all that jazz has got to go to a military cadre. And, you know, most of these guys in the Secret Service, they, you know, you take on extra responsibility. Everybody does sooner or later. You get married, you have kids, and you just can't work like you need to work when you're in the military. You just can't. We need these guys to not bitch and moan about hours and tours and that kind of thing. And people in the military expect that. Everybody now wants to have a complete life, that work-lifestyle balance. We have Secret Service people posting pictures of themselves in exotic and interesting locales like Mar-a-Lago, like Alaska on the Putin trip. We got them, and they're posting pictures of themselves. Look at me. Secret Service. Secret Service. At least be discreet. At least be a little bit, cool about it. That reminds me, I am so sick of these Velcro bro-y guys with their podcasts and the rest. Are there any Navy SEALs out there who don't have a podcast? It's just a little bit over the top. And I'm starting to wonder, they kind of all came from it. Did it happen organically, or did it happen with, the support and aid and financing of the Central Intelligence Agency? I do believe that some of these podcasters have been set up by our federal government to push messages that they like. And by and large, those messages are not the messages that Trump likes. They're not the messages that MAGA likes. A lot of these guys are masquerading as MAGA, and they're profiting handsomely, big time. There was a time also when people in the military, I guess it was The Greatest Generation. Anybody ever see that movie? What the hell was the name of it? Gregory Peck. Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. Guys went off to war, fought war, came back, and didn't make a big stink out of it. All right, veterans, but you didn't just remind everybody that you were a veteran, in part because it was no big deal, because so many people serve. Now that so few people serve, too many people in that small 1% of those who have served have recognized how rare it is. Therefore, it's valuable. Therefore, it can be marketed and discussed and talked about and monetized. And so much of this stuff has become a racket right now. It's been a long time in the works, a long time. I think some of it is this idea that the Vietnam veterans were mistreated when they got back, which is a little bit, there's some truth to it, but it's more myth than truth. They spat at us and all that stuff. There's a lot of myth going on there. I talked to my dad, you know what I mean? He got back. It was not even a big deal. The war at the time wasn't even that big a deal. He's in these big firefights, these big battles. You come back, you look at the paper, it's on like page A16 of the New York Times, a little piece. 50 service members were killed in fighting, blah, 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 blah. Nobody made that big a deal out of it. I mean, I guess we were more accustomed to it. I don't know. Oh gosh, you ever see those commercials with the skinny dogs and horses? Yikes, what is up with that? How can you do that to a horse? How could you do that to a pony? The ASPCA. ASPCA, they're good, right? It's not like PETA. Those crazy people at PETA, it's better than that. PETA's a little bit extreme. I think I like the ASPCA. Aren't they into the no-kill shelters? No-kill shelters? Zoran Mamdani, like so many political chumps who came before him, vows to close Rikers Island. We're going to close Rikers Island. Why? Why would we close Rikers Island? Why are you going to close Rikers Island? What's wrong with Rikers Island? What the hell is wrong with it? It's a physical structure. Where else are you going to put these criminals? Isn't it kind of ideal that we have an island that is removed from the population? Out in the water a little bit? Removed? That's part of the thing. I mean, you close Rikers Island, and you think you're doing the humane thing somehow. The liberals want to close. It's become a symbol. Guess what's going to happen when you close Rikers Island? Some people are there doing sentences. They're actually doing prison time. There's a difference between jail and prison, right? Prison is where you go to be punished. Jail is where you go to wait to be punished or wait to trial. Not always, but sometimes. So instead of having a prison within the 5 boroughs, what borough is that considered, by the way, Rikers Island? I think technically, legally, it might be the Bronx, even though it's connected to Queens. You know where they're going to start sending these guys? Way the hell upstate. To the Adirondack Mountains. 8 hours away. Or over by Buffalo, Attica, 12 hours away. For these poor families, right? Because a lot of times people who commit crime are not exactly well-to-do. It's going to create more problems. It's going to actually harm the people you want to help there, ma'am dammy. But you're not a very thoughtful guy, are you? You don't know much other than what you have seen online and tweets, liberal podcasts and the rest. Podcasts stink in both directions, by the way, both directions. Because they have to fire it up. Because if they don't get people, if they don't get their army all worked up and crazy, there's no there, right? Thank God for WABC. There's an infrastructure. There's a team. There's such a thing as too much independence. It's not a bad thing always to have a boss, actually. It's not a bad thing. Some of these people have no rules other than the rules that might be coming from the Central Intelligence Agency. This was suggested to me, and I think there's a lot of merit. People have been getting paid in media by the Central Intelligence Agency for 60 years at least. At least. They've admitted to it. Information operations, psychological operations, emotional capture. 18 intelligence agencies. 18 intelligence agencies. 18. Why do we need 18? Why does the Coast Guard need its own intelligence agency? Why does the Defense Department need its own intelligence agency and the Air Force and the Marine Corps and the Army? Doesn't really make sense. I think this war is coming in for a landing, folks. I really do. It would be great. You know what they're going to do? They're going to send home the killer who took out that girl in Chicago. What was her name? Sheridan Gorman. Have you seen what was going on there? Chicago is total anarchy. That young, beautiful girl, 20 years old, is from Yorktown in Westchester. She was there, I believe, for college. And she got shot in the head by an illegal alien criminal, a guy named Medina. He got in here under Joe Biden illegally, was here illegally. And now we're going to punish him legally. A lot of things to clean up here. Lots and lots and lots to clean up. Let's just see real quick. Yeah, that Mamdani, it reminds me also of Obama. Remember Obama? The very first thing he was going to do, day one, he was going to shut down Guantanamo. It's the same thing with, hopefully, I don't want them closing it. Now, I've heard some people say, well, this is all about turning it into a casino, which would be possibly even worse. The last thing we need is another casino in the world. Another thing that rips off regular people. Oh, but what about all the jobs? Do you really want a job in a casino? You want to be wearing a bow tie behind one of those stupid tables, ripping people off legally? Right? I would never want to work in a casino. right? Unless it was a cool job. What's the coolest job in the casino? I don't know. Maybe being Robert De Niro. Maybe trying to find the cheaters. But if you really want to look for the cheaters, look to the casino. Look to casino management. Back to Jill Biden. A Secret Service agent shot and wounded himself in the leg while guarding former First Lady Jill Biden at Philadelphia International Airport. The on-duty agent's gun went off at around 8:30 a.m. while helping escort former President Joe Biden's wife at the busy travel hub. The agent suffered a non-life-threatening injury following the negligent discharge that took place as he was handling a service weapon. There was no impact to the protectees' movement, and they were not present at the time of the incident. No other reported injuries, and the agent is at the hospital in stable condition. What else? Philadelphia police told CBS Philadelphia that the gun went off while the agent was in an unmarked Chevrolet SUV near the 1 PIA Way, Philadelphia International Airport Way, across the access point and the Pennsylvania Tower, whatever the hell that is. Is that the tower, the air traffic tower? Philadelphia police and other agencies were on scene Friday morning. We are grateful to the law enforcement partners for helping us out. The agency was facing fierce backlash after a gunman opened fire on President Trump while he was on the campaign trail in the summer of 2024. A report from a pair of U.S. senators last year outlined the agency's inexcusable negligence before, during, and after the attempt on Trump's life in what they called a cascade of preventable failures. So many failures that you actually have to wonder if components of the FBI and the CIA were in on it. And that brings me to that dirtbag Joe Kent. I cannot tell you that guy. And he's on yet another podcast, right? This is it. This is his media foray. He's not impacting policy. It does fascinate me, though. So get this. He had information, he said, that the Iranians ordered the assassination of President Trump. They arrested a guy for that very thing 2 days before the assassination attempt. And then he was almost assassinated. Joe Kent said, well, we had all kinds of interesting leads here, and they wouldn't let us pursue them. Who's they? Joe, who is that? Who wouldn't let you pursue? How could you take that for an answer? I mean, you're the director of counterterrorism, and you actually listen to that? This is the kind of thing you resign over. You say, no. I'm going to pursue it. You say I can't? Well, I'm going to tell everybody, including the President of the United States. I'm going to go on podcasts and tell that there is a unknown factor here in the assassination of President Trump, assassination attempt. I want to know the truth, and the government won't let me find out the truth. That's the kind of thing you resign over. That I could have had some respect for. Instead, because he's almost like one of those, hey, do me a favor, Justin, take a look at this, okay? He's almost like one of those reporters who writes a book, and they're writing newspaper columns every single day, but they hold some back because they want to put the juicy tidbits in the book, right? The things that will make news, will get reported, will give the book a news hook. So it's like he held this in his back pocket because he wanted to make news once he finally resigned from the Directorate of National, what the hell is it called again? DNI, Counterterrorism Director. And he had information that they would not let him pursue regarding the assassination attempt of President Trump. Who wouldn't let you pursue that? Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, the chief of staff? Who would say no to that? That's when you say, I'm the national counterterrorism person. We're investigating this. Unless you want to tell me, and this is possible, they had no investigative authority, that all they did was collate material from the interagency. Have you ever heard of the interagency? The interagency is a euphemistic word for the deep state. And they get their story straight. They make sure that the president is getting information that they manage that so closely. It happens in plain sight. They craft intelligence to their liking and making sure only certain things get in front of the president. And what they really want in an ideal world, Mr. President, we have these options for you, A, B, and C. And that's the problem with President Trump. he'll come up with option D, E, and F on his own. He'll also say, hey, why the hell did you guys come up with this? I'm not confined to this. And most presidents are, though. They're not even interested in finding E, D, and F. They're so, dazzled by Air Force One and the dumb helicopter and Secret Service. And, I'm getting a briefing from men and women of intelligence. These must be the best people in the world. I have to listen. No, you don't. And they're not special. They want you to think they're special, right? And especially some of these ex-military guys with all their fake war stories, with all their Velcro, with all their bromances, with all their booze. No, it's just a bunch of crap. It's just it's like virtue signaling of a different kind. We have that stuff yet? Do I want to do it now? All right, right after the break. Fascinating. How much do we want to bet that Rikers Island remains open? One of the easiest campaign promises to make, because everybody, wow, yeah, that's liberal, that's cool, that's right, shut down a prison. They find out there are no really other practical options. It makes no sense. The only thing, though, turning it into a casino, there may be enough money to bribe enough people to make it happen. And that would be worse than having a big jail there. Be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. Greg Kelly. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I wonder what they're going to do with that old plane, the plane that crashed over there at LaGuardia. It looks to me like they could possibly use that plane again. It's close. It's 50-50. They could refurbish it, or they'll probably just scrap it. I have a feeling, I don't know. It's really 50-50, either or. I could see that thing flying again. Remember when Sully landed in the Hudson River? That thing is now at the Aviation Museum in Charlotte, North Carolina. It finally made it to Charlotte. Sully Sullenberger, the miracle on the Hudson. You know how many years ago that was? 17 years ago. That was 2009. He landed, and wow, just a great story, right? Did the right thing. Of course, the airline tried to screw him over. Did you know that? They don't talk about that, but it did. He could have done this. He could have done that. He could have done this. He could have done that. I think landing on the water was a hell of a lot better than landing, say, in a neighborhood. That easily could have happened. All right, here's this what's his name? Kent. Joe Kent talking to Sean Ryan. Two dudes very much into bromance, just chilling in a bar. Sean Ryan, one of these ex-Navy SEALs, allegedly, in a bar. You know, a lot of this content is made to appeal to veterans or those who support veterans, and everybody, kind of supports veterans, right? And one thing I know that veterans don't need more of is alcohol. So I don't think doing this thing in a bar with all of those tasty bottles, right? Big bottles, small bottles, vodka, whiskey, all that crap, right? In the background. Why the hell would you do that? Right? We're men here. Yeah. Men with our tattoos and our booze and our this and our that. Huh? This conspicuous macho crap is getting me. I've never been into it. I'm over it. Right. But what happened here? This is the kind of thing that I think is reckless. He resigns over policy differences. Maybe you resign when the enemy, maybe even the enemy within, will not let you get at the truth of the presidential assassination attempt. Here's Joe Kent with Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan Show. What is it now? Which one's the Green Beret? Which one's the special? Which one's one of them is a Navy SEAL, one of them is a Green Beret, one or the other. It's almost like, nobody gives a damn if you're in the military unless you go around telling everybody you're in the Navy SEALs. Special Forces. Ooh, Special Forces. That's so superior. Special Forces. There was a time where you just did your military stint and you got out and then you went from there. You didn't relive it all and talk about it all the time. I mean, I'm glad I joined the military, and I loved it while I was there, but I wasn't in love with military life. I would have stayed in if I loved it so much. If you loved it so much, stay the hell in. And remember this about Joe Kent. I call him Joe Green Zone Kent, because all he would do is get liquored up at the Green Zone when he was in Iraq. There was a great big bar. People were drinking their faces off. All right, I'm sorry. Now, right here, why would you accept that? Why would you just roll over? Oh, they weren't doing their job. That's when you blow the whistle. You want to be a whistleblower? That's the time. You can do it then. I would wish, actually, even earlier. It would be so nice if sooner or later we had a whistleblower blowing the whistle before everything went crazy. Right? Hey, do me a favor, if you can. I want to go to the White House. It looks like President Trump is about to, let's see here, he's talking to the farmers. I think I got all the farmers. I think I got 100% of the farmers. I went out, I saw this guy on a farm, big guy, beautiful guy. He said, "Sir, thank you for giving us everything we need." Are we ready? Shall we? Alrighty. Rough estimate? Here we go.
We just provided $12 billion, right, Brooke, for the American farmers. You think Biden would have done that? No, he wouldn't have done that. We're delighted to be joined by Secretary of Agriculture, who's doing a fantastic job, Brooke Rollins. Brooke, thank you very much. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert. Bobby. EPA Administrator is doing such an incredible job. He's getting those costs down for you, and he's always protecting the environment, but he does it quickly. A real superstar, Lee Zeldin. Thank you, Lee. Great job. And someone everyone loves, and they love in particular the job she's doing, Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Kelly, thank you very much.
Well, lots of people, lots of fun times,
Thanks
including a great big gold tractor. Well, look at that thing. There is a great big gold tractor right outside the White House on the south side. And a lot of people with cowboy hats. Hold on, pump up the volume one more time.
And Representatives Jim Baird, Randy Feenstra, Monica De La Cruz, Brad Finstadt, Michelle Fishback, Mark Messmer, Victoria Spartz, Frank Lucas, Tracy Mann, Zach Nunn, Adrian Smith, and Derek Van Orden. They're all out here. They want your votes desperately, desperately.
You know what's amazing?
They're only here for your vote. You know that.
He always gets those names right. And what it reflects is meticulous staff work, right? Everyone in the audience who needs to be acknowledged is acknowledged. It's the little things. It means a lot. Attention to detail. He always nails the pronunciation. Who remembers when George H.W. Bush came to New York to campaign for Rudy Giuliani, and he called him Giuliani. Ready? We're going to make a kinder and gentler nation. Right, Rudy? Rudy? Barbara? Turn it back up, please.
Zippy's been with me right from the beginning, right, Zippy?
Zippy.
From day one, he liked Trump. He said, "Well, I don't know, but I just had a good meeting with him. I'm gonna go with Trump." Right? That was in 2015. And very special thanks to the proud young parents of two beloved American institutions, Future Farmers of America and 4-H. Two great.
The 4-H Club. I was in that thing. It's fun. I made a...
For 4 disastrous years before I took office, Sleepy Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress crushed America's farmers with the worst inflation in the history of our country. Prices were going through the roof. So bad. It was so bad what they had done to our country. And by the way, in so many other ways too, borders and everything else. But they crippled the American agriculture industry with brutal restrictions and failed to negotiate even a single new trade deal on your behalf. Not one trade deal was negotiated on your behalf during the Biden administration. And we happen to be the exact opposite. We have so many trade deals, we don't know what the hell to do with them. We need more lawyers. But now the American farmers, ranchers, growers, and producers once again have a true friend and champion in the Oval Office. And in my first year back in the White House, farm income has soared by 20% very quickly. I repealed the Biden EPA's ridiculous water restrictions. You had water restrictions that gave you everything but water. It needed a little water. They wouldn't give you it. It was crazy. To keep federal bureaucrats off your land and out of your pockets, it's a big deal. With the help of Republicans in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Already 45% of filers have taken advantage of our new tax provisions, with an average refund so far of almost $5,000, a record. In fact, we passed them, and people are just starting to see how important they are. It's amazing what's happened. The numbers they're reporting that it's much more money than I thought. I tell you, I call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill. Is a great big beautiful bill, and it's especially in terms of your tax refunds and your taxes, because it's the lowest tax we pay.
You know,
it's the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country.
And it's going to start kicking in basically any moment now. And the Republicans are better set up for the midterms than you've been told by the dominant media. All right, these events are worth listening to. You can learn more from President Trump and about what's really happening from listening to one event than from listening to 50 hours of fake news summarize that event. It's a very interesting thing to do. But we got to take a quick break. Be right back.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. You know that I'm the only one who knows this, and I think President Trump knows it. I know he knows it, that Gavin Newsom has no chance whatsoever to be president or to be the nominee, precisely because of the reason they say he will be the nominee, right? How good he is with the press and gathering attention. And a big component of that is his new stupid book, Young Man in a Hurry. Everything in this silly book, he is, it's either a lie or a tell. Perhaps both. I guess my favorite, and you know what, it only appeals to me, this is just how I know. This is how I know he's a fraud. I mean, I know it in my bones, all right? So take a look at this. Young Man in a Hurry, right? He's bragging the whole damn book about how precocious he is. You know, he says he has dyslexia. Here's the little thing about dyslexia. If you do have it, and I don't know if he does or doesn't, maybe he's just not good academically, but it's been kind of well established for about 20 years now that dyslexia can help people gain other talents that they wouldn't have if they did not have dyslexia. Possibly the best example of this is a lawyer named David Boies. So David Boies, prominent Democrat lawyer, he represented Al Gore in Bush v. Gore. Remember that in the recount? He's a very successful trial attorney. And he's very rich. He's controversial. He's very controversial as well because he has gotten swept up in politics. But before the controversy, he was just considered, my God, this guy is so smart. He does such a great job. And then he basically confessed to Malcolm Gladwell the reason why he's so good. And the reason why he's so good is, well, he has dyslexia and he can't read all that well. So what he does is he absorbs information from people better than anyone else could because he knows that's the only place he can get the information. He doesn't read. His reading comprehension stinks. But if he focuses on people, he can learn 10 times more. And he's honed his people reading antennae. You ever hear the blind people, they have like an extraordinary hearing or smell, and they can hear things and smell things that other people can't hear because they rely on those things more. It's kind of like that. And at least that's kind of the Malcolm Gladwell version. And Malcolm Gladwell kind of cuts corners, kind of embellishes a little bit. But there's something to it. So, when he says he has dyslexia, he's setting himself up for, I have great talent in other areas. But he's not a talented liar. In fact, he'll lie in the same paragraph and reveal the lie in that paragraph. I mean, he says, okay, he's a young man in a hurry. He gets his college diploma. The very first thing he does is he wants to get out there into the world and make a difference. So he takes a job delivering orthopedic shoe inserts for his uncle. His uncle owns a orthopedic shoe company, and his first stop is working for Uncle Paul. Okay, and what does he do for Uncle Paul? Does he come up with a plan to make orthopedic inserts for old people in Africa? No, he becomes a delivery boy. This college graduate is now a delivery boy, and he says out loud, "I don't get paid by the hour. I get paid for how many shoes I deliver, how many shoe inserts I deliver." And he comes up with this scheme, all kinds of shortcuts around town so he could deliver these things very, very fast. And then he says, so I can get paid for an entire day and only work a half a day, suggesting that there is a day rate or an hourly rate, right? But then in a sentence earlier, he says he gets paid by the shoe he delivers. It's just a contradiction. I think it's hilarious. And also a young man in a hurry who works for his uncle's firm right away. And then his next job is working for Mr. Shorenstein. His dad told him to go talk to Mr. Shorenstein. Why? I don't know. Just go talk to him. Mr. Shorenstein is like, what are you doing here? I don't know. My dad suggested I come. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do with you? This is not a young man in a hurry. This is a young man loafing. And then finally, after dawdling for 10 years in his 20s, he likes wine. He's hanging around a cafe. And he gets a job. Wait, here he is actually talking about his delivery boy job. Huh? How about this? He's bragging about his accomplishments as a delivery boy. Now, it's one thing if you want to talk about that. Like when I was 13, I delivered Newsday, although I wasn't the best Newsday paper boy. They used to want us to deliver something called extras. I couldn't believe it. It was so insulting to me. I delivered the newspaper to paying customers. And then they gave me a stack once a week of 45 what they called extras, like mini news days. And they wanted us to spend whatever it took, about an hour and a half delivering these things to people who weren't paying customers. And you know how much we got for delivering those dumb things? 1 penny. A penny each. A penny each. And they would check to see if we delivered the extras. I always threw the extras into the sewer. 45 cents. And then the guy who gave us the newspapers would bust us because, hey, you're not delivering your extras. You deliver the extras. A penny a piece for twice the work. No way. So I wasn't the best delivery boy. And I had my beef. The customers had their beef with me. I'd be polite, fast. But if you want to tell me about that, fine. Aren't I fabulous? I'm fabulous even when I'm dumb. It's a very bizarre thing to say. But I know what he's doing. He's doing the David Boies routine, but it doesn't work. There's no talent. There's no skill. It's weird. I heard somebody once say that Americans, we want to be represented in the White House, but we don't want to be replicated, right? We don't want just somebody just like us in the White House. We want somebody smart, even super smart, even genius smart. If you don't mind, I'd like to take, if you guys don't mind, one more time to the White House because I think he's going off script. President Trump, off script.
Children, and the children would get hit with this massive tax bill for the value of the farm. Sometimes the farm is very valuable, but the cash isn't so readily available. And they'd go out to a bank and they'd borrow money and they'd borrow and borrow and borrow to pay the tax. They'd be working for 20 years to pay it off. If they had a bad season, they'd lose their farm. We lost it many, many times. And you'd have actually many, many suicides over it. They would actually commit suicide because they couldn't stand the concept of losing their family farm. And I ended the death tax or the estate tax on family farms and small businesses. So I think you're appreciative of that. It was a terrible thing. It's too bad that so many people in the past couldn't have taken advantage of it because it would have made a lot of happy people out of people that really have had a miserable life. When they lose their farm, they're never the same. They're never the same. And I hope our farmers never forget that every single Democrat in Congress voted against all of the provisions I just mentioned, including the estate tax. And Republicans, all of these Republicans have stood strong and fought hard and gotten it. But the Democrats voted against every single provision that I just mentioned, including the tax reductions and including, frankly, the estate tax. But we delivered. The Republicans delivered for the farmers, and it was not easy because the opposition to farmers by Democrats is very strong. Thanks to our trade deals, you're now sending over $40 billion in American soybeans to China. I want to thank President Xi of China because we had a deal at 20, and I said, could you do me a favor? It's a big place. Could you double it? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, could you make it 40 instead of 20? And he overrode all of his people. He said, all right, I'll do it. And you got 40 instead of 20. So now you go out and buy bigger tractors. What can I tell you? Remember when that was announced? Everybody was surprised. Everybody thought it was going to be 20. He was very good.
I love it. Now, still, there is a great big shiny gold tractor right in front of him. What the hell is... And it's got the presidential seal on it. Every now and then he jumps in these things and goes for a ride. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?